In this episode, we're going to cover how freelance social media managers can save their sanity, reduce the overwhelm, and avoid burnout.
Welcome back to another episode of JFDI with the two Lauras. This is the podcast for freelance social media managers, where we talk about all sorts of things in relation to running your freelance business. One of the main reasons that people leave the freelance world is because of burnout. And when you've gone freelance because you want that freedom, burnout is one of those things you want to avoid. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about how you can save your sanity, how you can avoid that burnout, and you can reduce the overwhelm in your business by doing various different things. Before we get into it, I just want to remind you that we love reading your comments and we love reading your reviews. So please, wherever you are, this is a bit of a beg. Please leave us a review if you're enjoying the podcast. Maybe, tap on the 5 stars button if you think we're worth it. It really helps us to understand whether you're enjoying the show and also to get the show into the ears of more listeners. And of course, come and chat with us on Instagram. We're over there on Instagram as @the2Lauras. Right, let's dive in. Why are social media managers burnt out?
I think there's multiple reasons. So I'm just going to describe how I always feel. No, I'm joking. I think there are multiple reasons, really. I think one of them is it's constant, isn't it? It's like the laundry pile. It never ends, isn't it? And just as you get to the bottom, it's full again. It's the same with that content creation. There is always something more to do. You never finish. So that can be a lot. And I think you add to that in that thing, you have to be very reactive to things changing in the social media world, things changing in your clients' businesses, things changing in your lives. So you're constantly like firefighting and being quite reactive as opposed to being proactive, which can be really hard, like frustrating, because it's like treading water, treading through treacle. Is that some?
I think both phrases? Of those are quite valid phrases from you. I'm quite surprised. Yeah, wow. But got it right. Well done.
Yeah. I'd say they're the biggest reasons.
Yeah. And I think sometimes there's a feeling like, oh, this is just relentless, blah, blah, blah. If I go and get a proper, in inverted commas, job, I won't feel like this. But we have to remember that in most jobs, we have that relentless churn of doing the same thing every single day. And no matter what it is we're doing, whether you're pushing trolleys in Tesco's, there's always a trolley to collect, or whether you're doing, bookkeeping in a business, whatever it is, there's always something more, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think 9 times out of 10, if people leave the freelance world and go back into employment, it's to do social media marketing or similar or marketing roles. And so those things, certainly those things I've just mentioned. Yeah, and I think the biggest reason for those things is that there's kind of that lack of systems. It's like you're always starting from scratch because you've never had time to put some systems in place or tools or things to help you. So you're always like, oh God, I know I need to create a bit of a system for this or automate this or whatever it may be, but I just don't have time. So I'll just do this time. But then next time when I get a lead or next time when I want to sell this or that, I'll develop the system then. And you're constantly firefighting. And I think, but having those systems in place, it just provides a little bit of clarity. But you do have to stop what you're doing and take your time to develop those and also keep on top of them, like review them.
Yeah, I think there's another thing as well, is the constant kind of lack of boundaries between work and personal life. So if you're in any other job, typically you'd walk out the office and you wouldn't think about it again, or you wouldn't do anything about it again until you walk back in the office the next day. When you work in social media, because it's on your phone and because you're using social media for your own entertainment, it's always there in front of you.
Yeah.
And so I can totally see why that would be it would just hurts your brain that you can't really switch off from work because you're still looking at work even though you're not looking at work.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like, I'm trying to think of a similar, it's like working in an office and then on an evening saying to your friends, hey, let's go for a drink. We'll go sit and have a drink in the office.
Yeah, yes.
it is very
have a
hard to have those
sleepover in the
boundaries.
office.
Yeah. Yeah. And add to that, you've got potentially multiple clients and multiple businesses to be thinking about. You've normally got 5,000 million tools. You've got to remember loads of passwords. You've got, Google Authenticator is used more on your phone than speaking to your kids and your husband or children or a wife, partner. So it's just a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it can
it's
be.
worth it. Wouldn't change it for the world. Best thing I've ever done. But it can be a lot. And I think, add to that, we've not even covered, if you've got things going on in your personal life, that can make any situation harder, can't it, from a work perspective? So it's not...
God, it all sounds very depressing. Should we cheer it up and get rid of these issues?
Well, I was going to say, if
everyone just tunes out. Don't leave.
I think if you've listened to that, go, yep. That just proves that we are the right people in your world, because we've totally been there and can relate to it. But do keep listening, because we're going to kind of try and tackle some of the ways that we can try to overcome that. We can't completely take it away, because social media is not, unfortunately, in our power as much as maybe it should be some days.
Yeah.
But we're going to give you some tips to try and help make things a little bit easier.
Okay, let's go then. First tip. What's the first thing?
Okay, I know this might seem, I think this is quite a basic one, but I see this come up in conversations a fair amount. It's people not using schedulers.
Oh, yeah. Well, because but if I use a scheduler, my reach will reduce. No.
Yeah, and it's like, I've seen somebody, it was in a different group, like marketing group, and someone said, my client won't let me schedule.
Why has your client got bloody saying it?
It's the quickest reason to ditch a client ever. Like, a scheduler it's an essential tool.
That's like saying to an accountant, you cannot use a calculator. Like, what the hell? That's so weird. I can't understand and I don't understand why a client would say that anyway. Like, what do they think is going to happen if they use it? But also, how does the client even know if you're using a scheduler? That's just blown my mind. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
So I think kind of using a scheduler, you can be much more organised. You can have those boundaries in place. You're not kind of... there's people I've seen how they go, right, today, oh shit, I've not like that firefighting thing. They're like, oh, I've not got anything in the scheduler for today. Oh, I'll just
we would never do that, by the way. Just as that would never happen in our business. Just so you know, no, we've never ever run out of content.
But it's that, so then they think, oh, I'll just create that content now. So they create that content now, which means that they haven't got the time to then. So then it's like the next day they're like, oh God, I haven't had time. Yeah. So I'll just post content today. And again, it's about stopping. It's about stopping where you are, batch creating content and getting it in the scheduler. Now I know, like, I've had clients where I cannot schedule everything because... And
I think there's probably an argument to say that you shouldn't.
Yeah. And that, the product is very dynamic. Things were, there was... like one product in, if it was sold, I couldn't talk about it. So I had to make sure I was fairly like nimble, bit on my toes, but there was plenty of content I could schedule. So I was like, right, I'm going to schedule as much as I can. That's more like the USPs of the business, that, rather than the actual individual products.
The evergreen stuff.
Yeah. And then that's the word. And then so there are ways around that, but I do think you have to use a scheduler.
And I think, like, with the evergreen stuff that you've just said, the stuff that should be in the scheduler, as marketers, that's the stuff we should be doing in advance and scheduling, because that's the stuff we should be testing. The nimble stuff that you have to create on the go, you can't test that. Like, if a new product comes in and, like you said, that they would only have one of each product, you can't test the messaging on that, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Whereas the evergreen stuff, that it stands to reason that you need to do that in advance and schedule it, because you do need to test your messaging and test your formats and all of that stuff.
Yeah. I also think there's something to be said for using schedulers because you'll create better work, especially I think for yourself, for your own business and your own content, which obviously, as you know, you are all prioritizing, aren't you? And that is the first thing you do every week is you'll work on your own business and not somebody else's, obviously. So, and what I mean by that is we all, you know, imposter syndrome kicks in, you compare yourself to other people. If you're creating content on the fly, you're going to be letting those emotions, that imposter syndrome, and go, oh, you know what, I'm just not going to post it. Whereas if you sit down when you're in a positive frame of mind, you know, feeling good about everything, you create your content, you put it in a scheduler, that content, which is singing your praises and making out that you are the best person ever, is going to go out. Whereas if you've got to create that on the fly when you're feeling a little bit stressed and a bit overwhelmed and you looked at everyone else's content that day and everyone else's looks amazing, then you'll just go, oh, I'm just not going to post it. It's just not good enough. And then you don't post it. And I think that batch creating of content and putting it out there will help you sing your praises more than when you're doing it.
It will also help you spot gaps, see that everything's working together, see like a whole journey in your content, do it as a campaign. Like it just all works better when you do it like that.
Yeah, you're taking your audience down on a journey rather than going, oh shit, what can I post about today? And that goes for you and your clients' businesses.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's a basic one, and I bet people weren't expecting me to say that. But if you find yourself being someone who is posting without schedulers for one reason or another, then this is your kind of wake up call to stop, because that will help, and it will help you with some of those boundaries.
Yeah, agree. Perfect. Okay. The second one is, and I know at least one person listening to this will go, I can't do that. Or, oh, that sounds a bit like a bot. Automate. You need to automate in your business. And I don't mean automate replies on your DM saying, oh, thank you for following me. I'm not talking about spammy, like robotic automations. I'm talking about automations that reduce things that you are like repetitive in your life, in your business. So you're not doing the same thing more than once. If you're doing the same thing more than once a day, more than once a week, whatever, and it's done the same way, it can be automated. So you don't have to waste time doing it. So things like if you are sending onboarding emails to a new client, looking out for their payments, even sending invoices every month, all of those things can be automated. So you don't have to lift a finger. You can even automate if they haven't paid you on time, so they get reminders. So you don't have to feel icky chasing up their payments. Like all of those sorts of things can be automated to save you time, save you the headache of having to think about all of the things you've got to remember, and like the stress of all of that. And all of that can then reduce that overwhelm and that burnout. There's so many things that we automate in our business, isn't there?
Yeah. And I think just to touch on what you've just said there in terms of like chasing payments if they've not been made, and it's the same as like you've sent a proposal but you've not followed up. By automating it, again, so similar to what we were talking about before, it removes that kind of awkwardness for you. It removes the emotion out of it. So instead of thinking, oh God, I don't want to chase them because they've not paid my invoice, it's just really awkward, or I don't want to chase them about the proposal. What happens if this and what happens if that? It just takes that away from you. It systemizes that and it makes it a process, and it means that you don't have to have that worry and that angst about it. It just happens. And if it means that a client replies to you because you've followed up about your proposal and you've therefore won a client, then that is well worth it, is it not?
Absolutely. And like you might think, yeah, but then it doesn't sound like me. Well, an automation can still sound like you because you're going to write the emails. Yeah. They'll still sound exactly like you. But if you think about the amount of times in the past that you've ever like paid for something and maybe a credit card's failed, so you've then had an email saying, you know, this payment hasn't gone through, blah, blah, blah. No matter what business it's from, it's always been automated. And I bet you've never sat there and thought, how dare they chase my payment? You know, how dare they? Yeah. How dare they ask me for this thing? Because it's just a normal way of life. And but I know as freelancers, it can feel really uncomfortable to chase people up, especially when money's involved. So automate it so you don't feel like that.
There are clients that I've worked with in the past who said to me, oh, I never pay the invoice when it comes in. I only ever pay it when the reminder comes.
Wow.
Which is obviously weird, but
Yeah,
for me...
so the people who are not chasing them up are never getting paid?
Well, I'm sure they will be eventually, because surely everybody eventually chases, but they've got themselves... It's like weeks after that invoice should have been paid. It's been stressful. It's worrying, They wait, they push it back and try to give people the benefit of the doubt because they'll just pay it. And this person was like, oh, I always just waited for the reminder because then I knew that it had to be paid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that. But there's loads of things that you can automate. Like you can even automate sales emails to go, like maybe you've got a course or something and you've got a lead magnet. People come onto they sign up for your lead magnet. You can automate a whole campaign of emails that say, oh, thanks for downloading this thing. Now buy this other thing. All automated. You're selling it to people without even having to think about it. There could be money going in your bank account without you ever having to send another email. Like all of those things can make your life so much easier.
And all of these things don't, you might be listening to this thinking, oh my God, I totally need to do this. You don't need to just sit down and go, right, I need to automate the shit out of my business and do it all in one sitting. You just need to sit down and think, right, what tasks are repeated within my business? And some might be more obvious than others. And then just over time, build on that. But again, there's a running theme through this. You've got to allow yourself time to stop what you're doing, work on your business. And these are the things that you could be doing within that time.
Yeah. Love it. When it comes to automations, by the way, and schedulers that we've just been talking about, we're launching a new product soon called Hubsy. And Hubsy will allow you to do all of these things. We've even built some of the automations for you, so you don't have to think about how they could work. And all you have to do is just go and personalize them and turn them on. You can join the Inner Hub to get first access to Hubsy. We'll make sure the link is in the show notes. You can go to the2lauras.com/inner hub, or you can put yourself on the waiting list for Hubsy if you're not urgently trying to get in ASAP. And again, we'll put the link for that in there. But the best way to make sure you can get early access and the best rates is to be in the Inner Hub. So do come and join us. Okay, next thing that we can do.
Just to add to that, if you want to hear more about Hubsy, you can go and listen to last week's episode if you haven't already. I think it's episode 174.
Nice.
So go have a read. Go and have a listen to that if all of this.
Or read the transcript, if you want to.
Well, yeah. Whatever floats your boat.
Right, next up then. Next tip.
Next up is kind of removing unnecessary stuff in your business, like streamlining. We talked about right at the start reasons why people can get overwhelmed, and it's things like using shed loads of tools, spending your life in Google Authenticator, logging into everything, making a decision just what bloody tool to use. It's hard, that's a massive blocker. Is something we see all the time of people going, I need to do this, but which of all these things should I use? Which is the best tool? So kind of streamlining some of that tech, removing that decision making.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to make a decision. Like the longer you're thinking about it, the more overwhelmed you get with it. And there's someone who I'm sure is probably listening to this podcast and will know exactly that I'm talking about them. But we know somebody who has been talking about launching something for a really, really long time and has tried looking at every single tech option to get this thing out into the world. And it's probably been 2 years since we first had the first conversation about this. And if they'd just picked a tool, it could have been out there already. But it's the procrastination of making the decision that sometimes will hold you back. So sometimes you just have to think, okay, I'm going to use this. If it doesn't work, I can move on and I can try something else. But the whole time you're thinking about it, you're building the overwhelm in your mind and you're putting off actually taking action. And we're all about taking action. That's why this podcast is called JFDI. By the way, lots of people still don't actually know what JFDI stands for. So, just effing do it is like our motto. And sometimes that applies to choosing a tool. You just have to just decide.
Yeah. And I think, there's this hidden kind of mental load, isn't there, about all of these decisions you have to make, all the different tools that you are already using, switching between them, like the whole login stuff, like thinking, right. And I I can relate to this. Like, we've been in that place before where we've had too
loads.
much stuff, and then we had to kind of take a step back and strip it all down. You know, you've got one tool for comms, you've got another to manage your projects, you've got another for all your contracts and your invoices, you've got one, you know, something for booking your calls with your clients, you've got something for taking payments. It's a lot. It is a lot. So, you know, streamlining all of that and removing unnecessary stress and confusion is like the dream for me.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
So that tech overwhelm is one of the reasons, well, one of our biggest motivations for why we're launching Hubsy, because it's literally going to give you everything you need under one roof. So it removes that confusion, gives you that clarity. It kind of stops you wasting loads of time, because it's something we see all the time. It's not just how we feel about things and have felt about things in the past. It's what we're seeing all the time in our communities. You know, we've worked with thousands and thousands of freelance social media managers. So, you know, Hubsy is very much been developed because of what we're seeing happening out there in the big wide world, and hopefully it will help solve that juggle.
Yeah, and it's one decision.
Yeah,
like one decision, because it's one tool that does all of it. Oh, I feel a headache already lifting. Honestly, I was just, as you were talking just then, I was just thinking, my God, all the amount of decisions we have to make in our day that are not even related to work. No wonder we're overwhelmed with decision making. So, you know, if you can reduce your decision making, like, yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
There we go. But I do feel like we've talked about a lot of different things that can kind of reduce the overwhelm. And, you know, if you've been making notes throughout this podcast of all the different things that you can, yeah, exactly. You're probably overwhelmed with the list and thinking, oh God, I've got to go and do all these other things. That is the last thing we want you to feel, is overwhelmed by all of the ways that you could reduce your overwhelm. Like, that's the fastest way to burn out. What you need to do is just think about one thing. Like, what could you do? What one thing that could you do to simplify things for your client work, for your own work, in your business, with your tools? What is the one thing that you could do? What's the one thing that you could do today or this week or this month that would just simplify things a little bit? And even if it was just what's one decision that you could make, or what's one list that you could write? Like, what is that one thing you could do? And it could be, right, okay, I'm going to make the decision that I'm going to schedule my content. It could be, I'm going to make a decision that I am going to set up an automation that chases people when they haven't paid me. And hopefully that automation will never have to run because people pay you on time. But if it's done, you know it's in the background and that's off your mind. You don't have to worry about it. You know, it could be that you're going to set up an automation that is delivering a lead magnet. It could be anything that's just going to reduce one thing that you have to do in your business. But what you don't want to do is get sucked into the whole shiny object syndrome of everyone going, yeah, but you can do this and you can do this and you can do this and you can do this. Just one thing at a time. Just simplify.
Yeah. Sounds like the dream.
Yeah, as I go and get off this podcast and give you a list of 10 things you need to do.
Yeah, I definitely think that just take it one step at a time. Like, you know, we've mentioned that we've automated huge amount of stuff in our business, but that just didn't happen overnight.
No, it's taken years.
Yeah.
And some of those automations have literally been running for years.
Yeah.
Probably need checking, to be fair. Put it on the list.
Okay, so if you listening to this podcast thinking, oh my God, they're like in my brain, we aren't. But we do, as we've said, understand the perils of being a freelance social media manager. So we hope Hubsy will be a huge answer to an awful lot of problems that freelancers are facing. So as Laura mentioned, we will pop the link to Hubsy in the show notes so you can join the wait list and find out a little bit more about that as and when we roll that out. And I think, you know, burnout is not a badge of honour. It's not something we should all be aiming for.
No.
So if there are things that you can do in your business now, you might be thinking, I feel fine. What's burnout? Like, that's great. Savour that feeling, but put things in place now that you don't get to that point. So you can kind of reclaim a little bit of time, space, sanity, But yeah, do come and ask us any questions. Just come and give us a hollow on Instagram.
Yeah, and if there's things that you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, I know that I would need to automate this, but I don't know how. Or I know that I want to do this thing, but I don't know how. Or, if you're stuck on any of those little nitty-gritty things, ask us. We will give you ideas and point you in the right direction to kind of relieve those stressful things.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, we will be back next week. We will see you then.
Toodles!
Bye!